Prepare yourself for List Off, the gaming podcast where your hosts, Brian and Ryan, rank the things they love. 3, 2, 1, List Off!
You won't find any Game Awards bait here because we are covering the top 10 best writing in video games. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, Brian. I'm good. Are you sure we won't find any Game Awards bait?
Yeah, maybe. There's a potential. Some of these titles on mine might be a little baity, but we'll see.
It is funny though when like Oscar season rolls around, right? You get all those like deeply emotional films that are just like made to make you cry.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
So I was super excited about 7 Pounds because I'm just a Will Smith fan.
Okay.
That's the one. Have you heard of that one movie? 7 Pounds?
It sounds familiar. Yeah.
It's where he's basically like giving his organs to people in need. And someone told me this is just an Oscar bait movie. And I just felt like, no, this is a Will Smith movie. I'm going to see him contemplating life, standing in the shower, just the water dripping down his body.
Big Will Smith fan, huh?
And sure enough, at one point, I was going with a couple of friends, and I was like, he's going to stand in the shower in the next scene and think about what's going on. Sure enough, that is exactly what happens. Just go back in all the Will Smith movies, and that's usually
right. iRobot comes to mind. It's so funny because there are things like with actors, right? Harrison Ford points.
Yeah,
Ford points at people.
You find my wife,
right? Exactly. And Brad Pitt eats. If you notice, Brad Pitt eats and chews a lot in films. Yeah. So Will Smith showers. Yes. Yeah, that's great. So was it Oscar bait?
It was kind of Oscar bait. I still really liked the movie, but it was for a very specific purpose for sure.
Yeah. Have you seen the Will Smith show that's on Disney Plus? It's where he travels around the world and gets to like experience these different things. It's a nature show. It's by Darren Aronofsky actually. Directs it. Yeah.
I'm familiar with it.
It's called Welcome to Earth.
That's right.
It's so clever.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, I haven't checked it out, but
we watched the whole thing with our son and he loved it. It was great. It's really good. Yeah, really, cool. Really good. Yeah, that's not my mission debrief because we're at the top of the episode here.
Very good. But yeah, how about some video games? Did you play anything this week?
Yes, I did. Okay. I played more Elden Ring.
Surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge surprise. But that might be changing. There are a few games that have piqued my interest, namely Tunic is coming to Game Pass this week. And I have to say, I think I'm going to end up getting Stranger of Paradise, the Final Fantasy Origins game. With the Crystal Bros.
So I don't know. I have no knowledge of this, but people are going nuts about it.
So I love the first Final Fantasy game. Many longtime listeners will be very aware of that. I've spoken about that game many times on this podcast. But this is a retelling of that. I think it might even be a prequel to that. I'm not really sure. It has this so the more I see of it, the more I get a Yakuza Like a Dragon vibe, where it's just totally over the top ridiculousness and it's intentional. At first, it wasn't clear it was intentional. And I was like, this is going to be a bad game. But the more I see, the more I'm like, oh, this is like one of those deliberately bad things that ends up being really good. And so I have kind of come around on it, and I may end up getting it. I may wait till it's on sale. I think both that and Tunic are going to boil down to the fact that I'm going to wait till I beat Elden Ring. I've been wanting to stream lately, and I haven't because I don't really want to play anything but Elden Ring right now.
Right.
So I have progressed in that game. I think I'm pretty deep into it. I wouldn't say I'm about to beat it, but went to a few different lands. One of the lands was so ugly that I just wanted to spend it as a little, most of these places, like you want to go explore and see things. But one of them, I was like, nah, dude, like this isn't really what I'm looking for right now. I think I'm going to go ahead and get done what I need to here and just move on.
Was it a swamp?
It was like, it was a swamp with scarlet rot everywhere. And it's very cool. Fun. It's very cool, very alien looking. And there are like some really crazy things throughout the landscape. especially enemy design and just some of the things you see in the actual landscape itself. Like, I don't want to spoil anything. And the boss there is, I think, personally really cool. It's kind of caught some heat for being not a good Souls boss, but I think it was so epic in scope when you're going through it. I am still very much loving this game. I think it is a beautiful game as well, which maybe I didn't express earlier talking about it. And I think, a lot of these FromSoft games aren't always the best looking. Mm-hmm. I know they said that they did delay this game because of the Demon's Souls remake. They wanted to get it to be better looking, and it shows. There are points where it shows, especially when you're in castle areas. They're really ornate, and there's a really clean look to everything. It just, banners blowing in the breeze. It looks like a lived in world when you're in these environments. And they did a great job of having that depth where you can see the individual brick and stuff like that. It is a very good looking game. And yeah, thank God for PS5 load times too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any performance issues or it's been a fairly smooth experience for you?
Just what I mentioned a few weeks ago, where there's some pop in if you fast travel. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, the frame rate that got humming. I mean, I have noticed nothing aside from that. I haven't noticed any slowdown or frame rate dips or anything like that. It's sure. been a smooth time the whole way through from my experience. So I don't know if that's universal. I don't know if that's the case with people who are playing on PC, but it's definitely been the case with me. I love this game. It's not apparent. I think this is something that is incredible. It is one of those all-time games for sure.
Sweet.
I'll be talking about it for a long time.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, as you can probably guess, my time has been spent still in Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah.
And the more I play it, the more I fall in love with this world. Every second of it is such a joy to be in. I have been posting like crazy the photo mode screenshots of this game because it is so beautiful. And I wanted to say I'm on the last mission.
Oh, wow.
I'm almost done with the main story, and that I've pretty much been mainlining it. But as I have gotten closer to the end, I am very underleveled, which hasn't been that much of a problem. Mm-hmm. I can still pretty much get through things because the game gives you so many different tools to fight these robot dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. But I'm finding that I would like to have a little more experience under my belt, get a little more stats up and pouches bigger and things like that, and a better bow set. Right. But I just was, since I've been doing the main quest, I didn't realize that all the side quests are meaty things. They're actual adventures that take 30 minutes to an hour and have unique characters, unique monster designs. There's entire storylines. It's amazing. I didn't realize that there was all this extra stuff that is actually there.
Yeah.
So,
and you're framing that as a positive. You
Absolutely.
Very much are enjoying that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
they are entire storylines that I was never going to skip them, but they really fill out the world and show a lot of detail. And yeah, I just did one the other day that it just caught me by surprise how much kind of exposition and just, new characters I was meeting, new creatures that I had never seen before. And it was just a blast to play. And you get so much experience. This game throws experience left and right at you. So I'm definitely leveling up very quickly. But I did take a look to see where I'm at just to kind of get a gauge. And it is this is the last mission. And then I was surprised to see they listed out all the side quests, all the errands, which are kind of lesser side quests. And there's only 10 to 12 of each thing, 10 story missions, 10 side quests, 10 errands, maybe 20. Mm-hmm. So the game seems big, and there's a lot of dots on the map, but when you really break it down, there's only so many things that you are doing.
Yeah.
So that it's a big meaty game for sure, but it is very I could see myself kind of doing everything, and especially if you have to for for
get
the
that platinum. Get that
exactly.
Yeah. So that's cool. So that would probably be a deterrent for me, having such long side quests.
Okay.
I do tend to just want to get on with them, kind of get them done. And it makes me also appreciate a few things that Elden Ring does. Not to go back to that, but we kind of alluded to the fact that it was going to be months of us talking about these two games.
Oh yeah, totally.
The map itself doesn't have a lot of dots. It's all the detail you need to see is on the map. All the castles, all the landmarks, all the things that should draw your attention. So when you pull it up, you immediately see things like that doesn't fit with the landscape. Like, I'll go over there. Sure. And also the lack of a quest log I enjoy, because you kind of mentally log where you need to go, who you need to speak with, and the ones that don't seem important to you don't stick with you, and they're not just like this never-ending task list, right? Which I do really appreciate that kind of gameplay and how they do it. Definitely,
that is a cool thing, because when I first started Horizon, I was like, okay, I'm going to turn everything off that I can. Yeah. But it was still like, okay, well, you need to go this way. This is the route that you have to take to get to the next story beat. And I wanted to turn that off, because it really is something that, I just want to kind of explore. Right. And I know it's been a criticism. They've toned it down with patches, but Aloy will say like the answer to the puzzle before you even step into the room sometimes. Oh, that's which is kind of bad. But like I said, they did tone that down. She also does not discuss her stash nearly as much, which all the time when I was picking up stuff, she would say like, oh, I don't have enough room, but I'll just put it in my stash, which is just like extra inventory. Yeah. But it was just funny to see like she's not talking about her stash as much. So that was a good improvement. Yeah. Sounds like it. I can imagine that getting pretty annoying for sure. Yeah. But so one last thing. It was my birthday recently. Happy birthday. What? Thank you. When's your birthday? I don't usually broadcast to anyone. Oh yeah, well that's fair. That's fair. All right, you'll have to tell me. I don't even have it on Facebook, so that no one bothers me. Basically. Well, I get that. I don't have mine on there either. Exactly. Yeah. Two things to that is I have a mystery in my life, Ryan. Someone every year gifts me like $50 in either Best Buy or Amazon. I don't know who this person is. They text me a picture of a code for one of these stores, and they say happy birthday, and whenever I ask, they're like, don't worry about it, and then I never hear from them until a year later. What? So hold on, dude, it's just, I don't know, it's just some person that's sending me stuff. Whoa. How does this happen? I have no idea, dude. I have no idea. And you've asked who they are. You've asked them. I've asked, and they will not give me an answer. I've called and they will not pick up. This is the Banjo Koozies. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, wow. I have nothing. So I have $50 in Amazon, right? Can I just, how many years has this been occurring for? Like 3. That's pretty major. Like, and you don't know who this is? I don't know. How many years have we known each other? So here's the other thing. How many years have we known each other, Brian? About 3 years, right? About 3 years. It's not me. But here's the other thing. It comes from a different number every time. What? Yeah. This person is going through. Do not open those. Don't open those. Don't open those. They're using like burner phones, I guess, to send you gift cards. This is the craziest stuff I've ever heard. This is crazy, Brian. I feel like it's going to be a mystery to my grave that I will never figure out. This just, wow. You didn't bring this up in like the top conspiracy theory episodes. Yeah. Well, this is one of gaming's greatest conspiracy theories. Right here. So I have $50 and I wanted to either buy Elden Ring. That seems like a good purchase, right? Yes. Or like any number of Steam games. You can't do that. There's no Steam digital cards on there. Any cards that are listed as Steam currency, I knew that, are like private sellers that I would never buy from, because you don't know if they've like used the code. It seems just super sketch. Mm-hmm. So you can't I can't use my Amazon money to buy Steam stuff. And then I was going to buy maybe on the PS5, which I don't really want to do because I've got this nice computer. But even then, I think I had to get like a physical copy of Elden Ring, which again, I don't want to do. So I can't buy anything with this money, like the top things that I wanted to buy, you know? So yeah, that's my story.
Your disk drive on your PS5 is just staring at you.
I don't care about it.
It's just
I want
like,
digital.
What's wrong with you?
Digital
I'm right
only.
here. You if you bought one physical copy, you would never have to take it out of your PS5.
So that is my situation with my Switch with Breath of the Wild, and I hate it. I would much rather just have it digital on my console. But I did get one other thing, and only video listeners will be able to appreciate this.
Let's hear it.
This was from my wife.
What?
Yep. It's
oh my gosh.
fracture of our logo, which
Fracture's,
is a glass.
I know Fracture. Yeah. That is so cool.
So it's basically a glass kind of framed thing of our logo. So I'm gonna hang it up. Right?
Man, I have some of those. They're pictures of when my son was born.
Nice.
I would argue yours is cooler. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that is so cool, man.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I just got it today. So
we're still getting the tattoos though, right?
Heck yeah. What do we have to do? 5 years, I think we both agreed on.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I might just get the list off part. I don't know if I want another man's name tattooed on my body. My wife might get jealous.
Oh.
I'm kidding, man.
Well, we should start a Patreon, and then we can have like all of our patrons tattooed on our bodies. That would be the way to do it. That would be
cool. Yeah. That'd be like the top tier. We tattoo you on us.
Oh God.
Yeah. We'll run out of space. Maybe not. We probably wouldn't. We probably wouldn't run out of space at all.
Still just gonna say Brian and Ryan.
That's right.
All right. Well, there's our playlist. So why don't we talk about some of the best writing that games have ever seen? All right, Ryan. This is the list of the best writing in video games.
It is, man.
Yeah. Are you excited?
I am. I'm super excited for this. I thought I was going to have trouble making the list, but it actually just kind of came flowing out, for better or for worse. I will say, I alluded to this last week. This is going to be one that I'm sure people have strong opinions about. And if your game didn't make my list or Brian's list, it may be because we didn't play it.
Exactly.
Chances are it's probably because we didn't play it or didn't play enough of it.
Right.
So, this is a good one, man. I really like the topic. And do you start? We've had so many guests. Like, what do we do? What do we do, Brian?
I believe I start.
Okay, perfect.
Which is kind of counter to, I think, what we've been doing with guests. I know. So we're all over the place.
We really are.
But my honorable mention is a little game called Uncharted 4.
Oh yeah, I know this one.
Yeah, it's a good video game. And I think it has some pretty good writing to it. So I think just at the top of my list, I want to say that for me, best writing means that the spoken word, the characters that are developed from the writing, it has to make you care about them. It has to have an impact where you are either rooting for them or have a huge emotional response to what they're saying. And this list is definitely representative of that for me. And Uncharted 4 did a phenomenal job of that. So I like all the Uncharted games, but I think that Uncharted 4 took that very different tone, a more somber tone, and it introduced Nate's brother, Sam. And that was just kind of out of left field for me. Because I mean, it was out of left field for everyone because no one had any knowledge that this character even existed. But the way that they introduced him, and you could tell just like from the very beginning that he is kind of mysterious and kind of like out for himself in a lot of the same ways that Nate is.
Yeah.
But just through the way that they're interacting in that beginning kind of shipyard, where he's like, Nate's hasn't seen him for decades, and then he just shows up. And I feel like we've all kind of been in that situation where there are people in our life where we're like, you know, you're around. Like, I know that I guess in Nate's case, he thought he was dead.
Yeah.
But it's like those people that they're there, but they only show up kind of when they need something.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. We've all been there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you kind of got that vibe from him from the very beginning. And I think it was through the writing and just like through the interactions and Nate's face, and all that motion capture is just phenomenal. And that just continues. You get just instances with Nate and Elena that is like, this is some heavy stuff. Like, this is, husband and wife arguing, and like, are they going to be a couple anymore at the end of this? Because this is serious, what problems that they're facing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like a crazy thing to see in a video game. And you really felt for the characters and wanted them to pull through and kind of get their life together and communicate. And yeah, it was just phenomenal seeing that. And we saw that, up to the very end. So yeah, Uncharted 4 has some pretty good writing in my book.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big tale too. A lot of writing. It is the longest Uncharted game.
Exactly.
And they have a lot of that subtle dialogue too when you're just exploring the environments, with somebody else. There's a lot of dialogue between the characters involved. It's good. It's very well written for sure. Yeah. It's a good pick, definitely.
Thank you.
Moving on to my honorable mention, it is a game called Oxenfree. I had played this game last year. It's just like, there's this, you go to this island, right? And there's a mystery on the island. It's an island people go out to party. But there's some very like X-Files kind of paranormal things happening as well. And it just does this really like, it does the whole vague mystery really well, how you're never really sure of what's occurring, but it keeps occurring. And each time it does, it's more and more impactful. And the writing involved between these characters, it's very like surface level at first, but then you start really feeling like, no, they have years of history together. These teenagers do. And it also gets into some really emotional storytelling, but all the dialogue's very low key. It all feels very natural, something that teenage kids coming to the end of high school would be like discussing, and the conversations that you've probably had with your friends at that time in your life.
Exactly.
And,
I was just gonna say, like, those are some crazy conversations when you're that age and kind of learning about the world and philosophizing, right?
yeah exactly, like just trying to figure it all out, but yet there's also this bigger mystery going on, and some of that stuff that you don't say to your friends, some of the thoughts that you have that may be more negative start coming to the surface. And it's just really interesting to see these different relationships unfold amidst this larger, paranormal occurrence, right? And I just think it's cool because you can resolve it and you get off the island, but then you actually get more story in subsequent playthroughs. So the next time you play, you'll find out even more. It's like the island remembers you being there the first time. And like it almost alludes to the fact that you weren't really successful the first time. You're still there, which is really cool. It's just very like, gosh, I guess low key would be the best way to put it. But that's not to say it doesn't have impact. It just feels natural. Everything feels natural. How people would react in those situations when these freaky things happen. Yeah, they freak out. And people question, like, why are we continuing this? Like, why are we going into this building? This is not a good idea. And I like when people bring that to it, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't go up this thing where like we just saw that something really freaky happen,
I usually just say, it must have been the wind, and I keep going about my day.
Yeah. But I think that's also another cool part of it is that, like, in video games, sometimes you get people who are like, what was that noise in this dark basement where there's growling coming from? Like, I should probably go down there unarmed and check it out.
Right.
And it's like, you have no choice because it's told in a cutscene and now you're in the dark basement. Right.
Yeah.
But this has people like questioning everything and making some wise decisions, but also realizing that there is only one way off this island, and that's by confronting this larger paranormal occurrence, right?
But at least they're asking the questions, and having smart people, that's automatically like better writing at that point.
Yeah, and I think there's 4 main characters involved. And yeah, they all are very consistent with who they are throughout the story as well.
Cool. That's great. I have always seen that game, but I couldn't tell you a thing about it. I couldn't tell you anything that you just said or what even genre it belongs to.
It's a couple bucks, I think, to buy it. And I think actually Netflix bought the studio that made this game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. At the risk of having recency bias, I will say my number 10 is Horizon Forbidden West. It does have some good writing. I really do like the writing in this game. And I think it, again, is conveyed in that really cool way where every single character that you encounter has a personality. And that's, I think, kind of rare for an open world game. Most of the time you'll have people who are just like filler that don't have anything outside of like, go fetch me 10 boar skins.
Yeah.
But all of these characters, even in the side quests, even in the errands, they have their own personality to them and kind of story that they will tell you. And sometimes they are long stories, but you can kind of click through that if you want. But I think that all just really pushes that world building forward. I mean, that was the magic of the first game was seeing how the world has changed after the post-apocalypse, and this really just fills out things even more so. And everything is kind of separated into different tribes of people, and everyone has their own course in life. And I think Aloy continues to be a very fun character to listen to. She is a very strong character, which I think is important in video games, especially who have usually had just the strong male protagonists. This is probably one of the strongest female characters, aside people like Lara Croft. And it's hard to name like a good top 10 strong female characters.
Have we done that?
I don't think so.
We really should.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah,
that'd be a good one for sure. But yeah, the writing is good. I'm at a place in the game where, and I kind of mentioned this before, looking at more of the kind of readable things or audio logs, but I just got to a part where it was a one-on-one conversation with someone, and I wanted to hear every single thing in the dialogue wheel. I was like invested in everything they had to say about what was going on. And I think that writing was just like, it was so superb the entire way through. And I understood that character. I felt what they were saying like meant something. And that's crazy to have in a video game. And it's just like, for this game in particular, it's not just like two characters talking, it's them having a conversation. It's them kind of like fidgeting or getting up or like drinking tea and all these different things that like kind of make it so that the conversation isn't just words coming out of their mouth. It's an actual event that's happening. Yeah.
No, I could see this making your list. The first game had great writing, I thought.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I could definitely see this having good writing as well.
Yeah.
And there's just probably more of it too.
That's the thing. I think this game outshines the first in pretty much every aspect, which says a lot for me, at least.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think Aloy is like naturally a strong female too. It's not forced. It never feels forced, and that does a lot of benefit for the character. We were talking about Andy Weir books. You had recommended a few Andy Weir books, and the one I was thinking of, I still can't remember the name. It's like when people, I hate when dudes write female characters and they're like she smokes cigarettes and sleeps with who she wants because she's tough. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing? You know, that's not how it works. Like, I mean, you know, maybe it does for some, right? But my point is, you don't need to do those things to convey, like, we have a strong female protagonist. Like, you could just show it through the writing. And that is exactly what they do with Aloy. And they do it so well. So well. Yeah. Good pick.
Thank you.
So moving on to my number 10. Jason. It is Heavy Rain. Yeah. So laugh what you right, because everybody knows the Jason part and everybody giggle. But like, honestly, this has a good story. There are multiple characters that you play as, and you know, initially you're like, okay, I have this guy, like the father, I have the detective, I have the lady, I got like the private detective. How are all these stories going to intertwine and interweave? And at the end, only at the end for some of them do you realize that they do. And they do such a good job of having all these culminate in an effective ending. It feels earned when you get there. And you actually understand how every character got to that point as well. I think the biggest thing is that, you know, obviously you're dealing with some heavy subject matter, but this was one of the first times I remember a game feeling like a film. You know, there are games that attempted it prior to this, but this was one of the first occasions where I was like, no, this is like Seven. This is like a good detective film. And I loved it. Like, obviously very, inspired by Seven. I don't know if that's the writer or director has come out and said that, but it's kind of undeniable if you've played the game. And they do a good job of it. They do a good job of telling this grittier story where there is a cost to your actions and your choices. You can have characters drop out of the story as well if you get them killed. It's not like they're all guaranteed to be there at the end. And I think that was something that you didn't see often at the time. And it did it really well. It did the entire way through. It kept you guessing, like, who is the origami killer? Like, what is happening right now? And even the detective, even this guy who you start out as, like, you know, out of the multiple characters you start as, the detective, you're kind of like, okay, this is going to be the guy to solve the case. But then you find out, like, he has a drug habit. Like, they're not clean people, right? Like, they're complex people, like any real human being is. Yeah, it's very effective at what it's trying to accomplish. And like I said, it keeps you guessing till the end. All the characters come across as genuine and complex, like any human being is. And by the end, you recognize how each character got to the point where they are at the end of the story. And I won't spoil anything beyond that because maybe you haven't played it, but yeah, it's worth playing. I know, gosh, I really should have done my research and looked up who did this game prior to this, but I know he did other games. Detroit Become Human comes to mind, and numerous others.
The name is escaping me.
David Cage.
That's right.
Quantic Dream is the name of the studio. So they've done a number of games that follow this same, you know, kind of heavy decision-making gameplay. I have not really played any of the other ones. This was the one I had played.
Beyond Two Souls.
Beyond Two Souls. Yeah, Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Become Human. And then they're working on Star Wars Eclipse, which apparently might not come out for like 6 more years now.
Yeah, they need a little more time.
And I think there were some issues with the studio as a whole, as far as harassment claims go. So
I mean, what studio doesn't?
Yeah, but you know, gosh, now I feel bad talking about them. But this game in general, like I did really think it had effective writing, and it was very good. It was very good.
Awesome. Yeah. I've never delved into these games. I didn't have a PS3 when this game came out, and it wasn't going to be a game that probably struck my fancy, but I can totally see why people like it, and I appreciate the level of detail and decision making and the writing that goes into these games.
That's plus, I like, darker in tone, more depressing, kind of stories. No, it's true. I just
it's the first thing I think about when I think about you. So.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think I could go back and play this game now. It's one of those where how the game is played just doesn't sound appealing to me whatsoever. So totally. But I am glad I played it when I did.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good pick. I definitely have seen people liking that game for its writing, so that's great. All right. My number 9 is weird to put it on here, but I like the writing. God of War 2018.
I had a feeling this would be on your list.
Yeah. So, I mean, the dialogue in this game.
Sorry, I'm just thinking like, boy. I know how to write. What should Kratos' line be? I think Kratos should say boy. Boy.
Okay, but therein lies the magic, because there's inflection and tone, and we know exactly what Kratos means when he says boy.
Yeah.
Versus boy.
Yeah.
And that's important. But no, I mean, this has some really good writing in the fact that, we have all sorts of different avenues with the Smithy twins. Oh God, what are they called? You know who I'm talking about?
I don't.
Oh, the two guys who like make your armor and make your weapons.
Sorry, Brock and Sindri.
Yeah, Brock and Sindri.
Yeah,
they're hilarious. And
the Smithy twins. I'm like, is this a pop culture reference? What's going on?
The Smithy twins. That's what they call themselves.
Okay.
So we get an immense amount of humor with those guys, and any like, I don't think Kratos understands humor. Like, has he ever smiled or laughed or anything? Yeah,
I think he understands humor, but he like won't let that facade.
I feel like he does say it. He says a joke in the game, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is how he tells jokes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way that they convey the story in this game through the writing, even at the end, like I'm not going to say anything because this game technically just came out for like PC, but at the end there's just like dialogue that Atreus is kind of saying and like coming to revelations about who he is, and it's just like it speaks to the audience in a way that is just like, oh my God, like this is a different thing than I thought, and I'm understanding these characters in a new light. And even just like other characters talking to Kratos about his past and how he kind of reconciles who he is and who he was. That's just like phenomenally done. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's so subtle in this game. There's not that much, but for what little is said, it speaks volumes. So I think that's a cool aspect of it.
Yeah, I will say it's not on my list. I did debate putting it on here, but I couldn't get over all the boys,
Sure.
But no, I mean, you get so much more than that. There's the severed head, his dialogue.
Yes.
I can't think of his name now, but yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's excellently written. I think everything just conveys that emotion you're speaking of. And it's really incredible, because I know this has been said time and time again, but you're dealing with a character that had no emotion.
Right.
And now he has emotion and doesn't know how to deal with it. And you're with him on that process of learning how to deal with it. Mimir. And how to be a father. Mimir, thank you very much. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. This is worthy of being on this list. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. Yeah.
Looking forward to the sequel.
You even get like the deep guttural Jorgermander, the big snake, right? The great dialogue there.
Right.
Yeah, because you get it translated to you. But no, it's awesome. It is a very complex tale as well. You get allies who turn to enemies and enemies who stay enemies, but you get to find out more of their story throughout. And it's really cool, man. That knock at the door. I've always wanted to go back and play this game. And I really think the closer we get to the sequel, the more likely it is that I play through it again.
My plan is to grab it on a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Play it that way.
Macho Man.
That's
Macho
right.
Man God of War.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So moving on to my number 9, it is Uncharted 2.
Wow. Okay.
Uncharted 2, not 4. And it's because of the brother, actually, because it's like, man, that seemed like such a writing cop-out. Like, how could we write a 4th game? Well, we can't possibly just use the characters we've already established and had, because we've done that for 3 games. Let's have a secret brother pop in. It was just like, oh man, like really we're going that way. Look, I think as a whole the game was very well written. I don't disagree with you there, but it did feel like kind of a plot device, right? I think that's a fair thing to say.
So I can understand that if at some point Nate had spoken about him, or at least like they could even in the 4th game, like Elena could have said like, is this the brother that you mentioned, or something to that effect, where like, because it was a secret to her too that he even existed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I could see that it's just like, yeah, we need another character. Let's make this happen.
Device. It's totally a plot device, but like they still did a good job with it. So I'm not taking anything away with it. But Uncharted 2, yeah, sometimes you just want a big dumb action movie, and this was 100% that, and it was so much more than that. I think just the way the story was told as well, it does that very like filmic thing where it starts from the middle and you got to work your way to that point, right? And it's a very evil guy is evil and good guys are good.
You have to believe, Nate.
Yeah, there is some, hey, come on. But there is some, also backstabbing involved from characters you trust. And then you're dealing with running into them throughout the game and knowing they were once your friend. And I just think the things these games do really well is weave in real history with this fiction that they're building. And I always thought that was so cool, right? Like,
it's Indiana Jones, you know?
It is. And it is a good version of Indiana Jones. Like this could easily have been an Indiana Jones movie and it would have been freaking great. Or it easily could have just been the Uncharted movie they made. They could have just made Uncharted 2 and I would have loved every minute of it. I guarantee you. And the dialogue is good in this. You're also getting like 2 characters falling in love. You're getting that whole relationship building between Elena and Drake. And it's just, you got Sully, you got all the wonderful witty dialogue from him. I just think it's something that it goes beyond a big dumb action film. You care for these characters. You feel for them when bad things happen to them. You want them to succeed, and it's because of how they're written. I mean, Nathan Drake is such a lovable dude. And I feel like
mass murderer,
right? Well, the fact that he could kill hundreds of people and we still love him.
Yeah,
like
they shot
it's the
him
strength
first.
of the writing. It's the strength of the writing. But I feel like no game really got it right like this one did. Yeah, I loved the first game, but I didn't really think Nathan Drake was an incredible video game character until Uncharted 2.
Even Chloe is an immaculately written character.
Yeah, and it does that whole thing too, where you're like, man, like, should Nathan be with Chloe or should he be with Elena? Right. And like, I know it's kind of tropey, but it was cool to see the strengths of both of these female characters, right? They're both very strong female characters. And like the fact of the matter is neither one of them really need Nathan.
No, they don't.
No, they don't need him at all. So like, yeah, it was really cool, man. I loved this game. I loved the writing in it. I loved the characters involved. And it's another one where like the most important thing when writing characters is that they stay consistent to who they are. That doesn't mean they're one note. It doesn't ever mean they're one note, but it's that if they do something, you have to be able to understand their logic for doing that thing.
Yeah. And
you feel that way in this game 100%. And the other ones I mentioned and the future games I will mention, you'll feel that way as well, because I think that is the most important thing. It's not that people can't do things out of character. It's just you have to understand the drive for them to do those things.
Right, because characters can grow and then do something counter to what we would think they would do, but sometimes that just is a sign of growth and that they are doing something that is more meaningful to them as a human.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's great. Yeah. Uncharted's are good written games, except for probably the first one, which is like less than bad. Like a national treasure, but yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah. All right, number 8. Got to throw in some retro. So we got Chrono Trigger on there because this is a top game for me, and the writing as a kid reading these characters and the stories that were unfolding. It made me care about these characters in a way that I didn't think I could with these little 16-bit sprites. But yeah, we get all sorts of different characters from different backgrounds and time periods, and they all act and talk to you in the ways that we would imagine they would, except for our main character. He doesn't say too much, if anything. But everyone else definitely has a lot to say. And I always love it when we get to have a bad guy, and he has, all the stuff that he wants to do and talks about and whatever, but then he can be on your team, and he's still like is a character that you care about at that point, even though you just like fought him. I'm talking about Magus. Just a character who is like kind of has that growth where like you fight him, but then he realizes like, okay, there's a much bigger threat here that needs to be dealt with. And he kind of explains that as his character in the game. And that happens just numerous times throughout this. There's a lot of different, I've mentioned obviously the different time periods, and people have different motivations depending on where they're from. We have that far-flung future where people are just like wanting to eat, and that is the only thing that they can think about is like, okay, like I can go into this machine and feel rested, but I still have like no food whatsoever. And everything I do is just like based on getting crumbs from the robots that are buzzing around. And then there's like the Zeal Palace that is just like the people who are living an awesome life, and everything is glorious. And you see, that character written and those people written so well. I think just the fact that we get like these disparate times and see the people living there, and you can tell like, yes, this is a great place to live, but there's still this problem that's happening, and is conveyed through that writing in a pretty cool way.
Yeah. I kind of thought this would make your list as well.
Of course.
Yeah. Did not make mine, but for that reason, I'd really have to go back and revisit it to have the writing in. So there's another one that didn't make my list, and I was considering it, and that was Final Fantasy VI. But I'd kind of have to go back and revisit that too, because I could see the writing being a little clunky now, right?
Really?
Like it was a different era, and I think certain characters were written in, the cliche of the time. So I don't know if it would hold up, but I would be interested in going back and replaying Chrono Trigger for sure.
I feel like Chrono Trigger holds up in a lot of good ways, and it's not just like, I'm not just thinking about the time that I played it. Because I have replayed it in years past, and it always hits pretty hard for me.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I think it's a good pick. Definitely a good pick. Yeah, not going to be on my list, but sure, I do appreciate it, man. So moving on to my number 8. My number 8 is Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots.
Nice.
Yeah, this is Hideo Kojima being Hideo Kojima. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of like craziness and long cutscenes, right? But really, really good dialogue, as I think Kojima always does. Whether or not you could follow along with what is happening in the plot, he still does a very good job of writing these characters. It's always entertaining, right? And he has these very like tongue-in-cheek moments as well. and a lot of very interesting characters that offset each other's personalities extremely well. And that's maybe never as apparent as Otacon and Solid Snake, right? Their duo, they play off of each other extremely well in all of these games. But gosh, this is probably my favorite Metal Gear Solid game. I love 1. I love 2.
Did you play 5?
I didn't play 5, and I don't care about 5.
Oh, okay.
This was the ending for me. Like, this was it. This was it. And I think that's why the writing in this game holds up so well. Basically, you are Solid Snake, and you have a year left to live, because part of your like super soldier genome process also shortened your lifespan. So you are at the end of your life, and you have to it also takes place in a parallel world. I think it's where the Cold War never really ended. It continued into the 1990s, and ended right before the turn of the century. So it's very like alternate history. You also have to understand the events of the second game because they play directly into this. A lot of complaints people had about the second game was the main character, Raiden. I don't have those complaints. I think he was great. I think he was an awesome protagonist. I think people were just upset to not play as Solid Snake, right? But Raiden's in this, and he is cool as anything. But it does such a good job of wrapping up everything from the prior games. You have the culmination of Snake versus Ocelot in this game, and it's also Liquid Snake / Ocelot. Liquid Ocelot, I believe, is what they call him. And then you also have vampires show up from Metal Gear Solid 2 again.
So do they, at all these points, is it like conversations between them?
Oh,
that
100%.
Like sell it? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So like the thing that, so in Metal Gear Solid 2, there was vampire. This guy, like, oh my gosh, he kept popping up. What a pain in the butt this dude was throughout the entire game. Just a thorn in Raiden's side throughout the entire game. And finally, you put him to rest in that game. And you're like, oh, we are done. Like, that dude is gone. He is out of these games. Think about it. His name is Vampire, dude. Like, you think he's gone? He's not gone. And there is so much good dialogue between him and Raiden in this game. And there's so much back and forth. And it is like crazy anime battle between the two of them because you're dealing with like a cybernetic ninja and a vampire fighting each other. And it is as cool as it sounds. Like, right. And the whole time they're just talking smack on each other. It's great, dude. And the whole story is very, very like epic in scope. And it's told with this undercut of loss, like the end of the line. You are a soldier at the end of his life, and he's questioning everything, questioning what he's fighting for. He's questioning, is it worth it? But he knows his mission, and he has to complete it. And it's good up and till the ending, through the ending, and into the what's it? God, not the prologue. Why can't I think of
Epilogue.
This? Epilogue. Thank you. And it's good through that too. And it really just hits home. Like you feel like you are losing a character you spent a decade with, and you really were. And it just did such a good job of driving that home and feeling, there's so many ways you could get this wrong, right? Mm-hmm. There are so many ways games can get things wrong. And I don't think that many games have the opportunity to get things wrong in the way that Metal Gear Solid 4 did. There were 3 incredible games before it. And this was it. This was going to be the last one. And the fans knew it was going to be the last one. And you could really drop the ball with that kind of pressure. And I think there wasn't a single fan that felt as though this game let them down. And that's it. That right there shows you how well they wrote the characters they had in this game. Like nice. They paid homage to them in the best way possible. Yeah.
Very good.
It's so good. I want to go play that game now.
Oh man.
And I just remember being wowed by how beautiful this game looked.
Sure.
And I'm sure I'd feel the same way about it. I'm sure I would. There is one scene where you're going through like France on like I think a motorbike, and you're like going through all these cobblestone roads, and it is just so cool. The lighting, everything. It's like, oh man, I want to go back and play it. I really do.
It sounds like it.
yeah, it's good.
Nice. I have zero Metal Gear knowledge, so but that all sounds great.
Cool.
It sounds cool to have like what I imagine to be like the bad guys talking to you a lot.
Oh, there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
a whole lot of that. Yeah, it does it. It's very effective at making you want to like take them out even more,
right?
Like driving you as a player to like
exactly.
end it. You know? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, my number 7 is GTA 5. So,
all right.
GTA games have great writing always. It's very funny. It's very tongue in cheek. They do satire better than anyone. GTA 5 was fun for me because you got those 3 disparate characters, and they all had their own motivations as to why they did everything they did. Just like having psychopathic Trevor and never knowing as the player character, like, what is he gonna do in this situation? You can never really pinpoint it, and he always had the dialogue to just like, all right, well, I guess that's what he's doing, and he's just mad. I think most players would probably identify with Michael, who was like just the main guy, I would say. He's the first one you play as, because he's just like kind of the most down to earth, but then he's just like, he's a family man, but he's got just a crazy family dynamics. And the way that he talks to everyone in his family, you see that as that like Los Angeles, like super high class person, and someone who is like come into money and is just, yeah, I just think of an LA person.
Like, yeah, babe.
Exactly. Yeah. And babe. Like doesn't really care about his son. It's just like he loves him, but like, all right, this kid's like a
not true concern. Yeah.
So
shallow.
Exactly. And then, oh God, what's the other character's name?
I don't know.
Yeah. No, you've never played it.
No, I've never played it. Yeah.
How is this possible still?
I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Now it's on PS5, right? It just came out on PS5. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like this game, you should play this game.
I probably should.
It's a good game.
If the writing's good, maybe I should. I agree about the tongue and cheekness of it all too. You know.
Yeah, I would say like, I mean, okay, Franklin, is that him? Yeah, Franklin is the other character that you play, and yeah, he has a completely different life and talks to people in a completely different manner, and comes from a completely different place. And just seeing those 3 dynamics of all the characters, and everyone that they interact with is so much fun. GTA 5 had kind of annoying characters. I never really liked any of them. But 5 had a lot more breadth that helped.
You said which one had annoying characters?
4.
Okay.
Nico and his cousin. Yeah. That one I would say you could skip.
No, I think I did play it. Not memorable though, which is
I didn't really like that one. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and then I have to mention all of the radio stations, because that's where some crazy writing comes into play. I don't know if anything ever reaches specifically in the radio back in the Vice City days, because I could just listen to that talk radio all day long and Laszlo, man. Laszlo is it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So funny.
Good. Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see this making the list just from having played prior GTA games. Yeah. Like you said, they do tongue in cheek really well.
Yes.
I think their characters are written ridiculously.
Yes.
But they nail that ridiculousness. Like, it's an exaggeration of every archetype, right?
But it's not anymore, and it's so crazy.
It's true. It's true.
GTA is just real life now, and it's insane.
Yeah. God help us all. Yeah. Right. Oh man. Good pick though, dude, for sure. Maybe I should play this game. I don't know. It's super cheap, right? For PS5. I think it's like $10.
Dude, there's no reason why you shouldn't play this game. Just for the story, but just for the main campaign is so much fun.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I've been saying that for a long time now.
So like GTA games. You'll like this game.
I used to like GTA games. I haven't played one in a while, so yeah, maybe. I haven't played one in a while because I haven't played GTA 5, and it's the only one that's been out for a very long time.
Almost 10 years now.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to my number 7, it's Telltale's The Walking Dead.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think, did you know this was going to be on my list?
I have a feeling about a couple, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I just, like I said, that consistency with characters, I think it's one of this game's greatest strengths. The people throughout the story, they're all struggling, and they all have a different way of dealing with that struggle. And it's apparent in their actions and their behaviors. Some people just can't handle it. And I think that is exactly what would happen if there were a zombie apocalypse. Like, people would break, and they do a good job of displaying, like, people break in this. And even the people that seem to maintain their wits and have a sound mind, like, there's cracks underneath the surface for everybody because they have all experienced this trauma. And they do a really good job of conveying that, even if it's as simple as people experiencing that loss and not knowing how to process it. There are quieter moments where it's like, damn, like, this guy's been the Rock, but he's hurting. Like, he's really hurting underneath, and he has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Lee specifically, there are these moments where you're the protagonist, you're doing all these things to protect Clementine, and you never really question how he's feeling about it. But then he has these moments where he goes off and does things alone, and he's constantly asking himself these questions that any human being would be asking themselves, and it just, it's very somber and it's very genuine. The dialogue and the story arc between Lee and Clementine, it's unbelievable. It's up there with any other characters interacting together. And by the end, you just feel so strongly for both of them because you know exactly what they've been through. And yeah, that writing really drives that point home, all those tragedies home. It is a little comic booky at times. It's based off the comic book, The Walking Dead, not the show. But yeah, who doesn't enjoy a good comic book, Brian? Who doesn't enjoy a good comic book?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing about zombie media is it's very human because you're dealing with the survivors and the zombies, both of which are human, but just in different forms. And there's so much baggage that goes into that dynamic.
Yeah.
And yes, we have overdone it at this point.
Right.
But it's still cool to see stories like this kind of shine through.
And I mean, Clementine is a kid. So she is questioning all that. In this game, she's a kid, and she is like, these are people. That's a conversation they have where they're like, are we killing people?
Right.
Like, is this okay that we're doing this? And I think one thing that the show, the comic book, and this game have done so well is to show that the real threat is never the zombies.
Yeah.
Right.
We are the Walking Dead.
Yeah. Well, the real threat is the survivors. Yeah. But the term, that's not accurate. The term "we are the Walking Dead" is the futility of it all. Right.
Right.
They're really just staving off in eventuality. Like, it's going to happen. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction.
Well, no, it's because it's important. It to me, it's very important. And like,
totally.
The first time you hear that, you're like, whoa,
right.
Like, it is clever, right?
Very good. My number 6. I'm wondering if this is going to be on your list. And don't make any gesture to either way.
Okay.
It's Hades. Hades is a good.
I'm gesturing.
I don't know what these gestures even mean.
I know.
It looks like you're juggling pancakes or something. So yeah, Hades, great writing. The thing people say, and it's absolutely true about this game, you never hear the same dialogue twice. And this game is all about doing things over and over and over again. but every single character has something new to say every single time you talk to them. And that is insane to me. I forget how many hundreds of pages of written dialogue there are in this game, but it is massive. And that is one of the biggest draws to this game. It is a roguelite, but the reason that it's so successful is because of the writing. It's because of the conversations that you're having with other gods when you die, and the dynamics between them, and the dynamics just with all the characters are so complex. And basically that's like the entire point of the game, is understanding the complexities of you and your family, and why you're here, and what your relationship is. And that it's just immensely fun to explore every single time. I just can't say enough good things about the writing. That usually doesn't propel me in video games as much as other aspects, such as gameplay. But that definitely was one of the main driving forces. I had to know what was happening, and I had to know, I was interested in every single second or every single sentence that came out of someone's mouth, and what it meant for me as a player, and the characters that I was interacting with.
Right. It was that sense of discovery through dialogue. They did it really, really well. Really lovable characters, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just adore how tongue-in-cheek and humorous it is too. And there is a deeper story there, don't get me wrong. And even that you don't really understand until multiple playthroughs. But even like these characters, like, gosh, what was it? The Minotaur and Perseus, was it? Or Theseus?
Yes. Theseus.
Yeah. Like Theseus to me is that like shallow, like you are my enemy. Now that you beat him, it's like even worse. He just wants it even more now. And then you just keep beating him, and he like doesn't know how to handle it. He's like, it's so funny to hear the dialogue out of that guy, because he's so insecure as a person, and it's told through like the subtlety of that dialogue. It's very good. I do like how whenever you're dealing with some of the gods and some of the larger gods, there's like a feigned concern.
Yes.
Because like they're gods, and like Zeus is like, well, I'm your uncle, so if you need anything, like, I'm here for you, buddy. But he's really kind of like, yeah, kid,
he's
like
just
whatever.
Nice.
Right. He's just being nice because like he's Zeus. What the hell does he care?
Right.
And it seems that way with all these other bigger gods. Some of the smaller ones are like, like, what was it? Dionysus is like, yeah, baby, like I'm here for you, and he felt like a cool guy. But some of the other ones
are
just
there
like,
to have a good time.
They're just exactly. They don't really like helping you is very secondary to them, right?
For
like,
him, you're just like another drinking buddy.
Yeah, we really hope you make it out of there, but like whatever,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That aspect was really fun.
Yeah,
especially because their whole purpose is to like help you, and their help is like the most immense boon possible.
Yeah, but they're not like really
it's
into it.
It's as if like a billionaire like dropped whatever pocket change they had, and it's like it changes your life like immensely.
Right, like a billionaire just drops like $500,000.
Exactly,
and you're like, oh my gosh, I have $500,000. The billionaire's like, oh, like you can keep it. That's kind of what it's like.
I swear I had another nickel in here.
Right. That's a good comparison for sure. It's a great pick. It's a great pick too.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on to my number 6. My number 6 is Yakuza 0.
All right.
Yeah. It was between this and Like a Dragon, because as I mentioned prior in the episode, Like a Dragon is very over the top ridiculousness, and I love how it pays homage to video games. There are a lot of references to RPGs, even through the dialogue, and like they call it a party, and other characters are like almost in on it as well. They call you a hero at times, and like it's just very, very tongue-in-cheek. But for Yakuza 0, it's different. It has that tongue-in-cheekness, like it has that ridiculous dialogue and situations, but it's also like a really effective, gritty crime drama. And I think that when I speak about these games, I tend to focus on the lighter side of it. But there is a really big tale being told in Yakuza 0. And it is a prequel that was told after a few games had come out. So you get to know characters that you already know by this point, but you get to know where they came from. and where they got to where they are at the beginning of the first game. And it does such a good job with conveying why these characters are who they are and building them up for where they are in future games when you see them. But man, it's so engaging the whole way through. You're dealing with like the Yakuza, right? Organized crime. And there's right. Yeah.
That has a lot of baggage to it.
Yeah, for sure. And there is like, gosh, I can't think of words today, but it's regimented. Like there are people above you. There are things you have to obey. There are rules that you can't break. And it's so interesting to see how that plays out in the story. All these other people who are higher up the food chain than you, right? And how they speak to you, and eventually like how you conflict with them and take them out and their reactions to that. And it's very, very well told. Also kind of how you uncover more characters and a bigger underbelly and different factions who are vying for control in this like section of Japan, Kamurocho. And it's just like every character you run into is either hilarious or compelling and you want to know more. It's one of the two, but every time you want to know more. And it's very effective. And by the end, man, it's like a very earned ending. And it's just cool the places you go to get there. It's a vast story. It goes a ton of different places. There's a lot of betrayal. There's a lot of that, like things that you would get from The Sopranos or The Godfather, right? And all the characters involved in those shows as well, like all those archetypes you have in this story as well. And it does such a good job of just keeping you going and keeping you engaged the entire way through. I did not think these games would be something that I would find so entertaining and engaging, but man, like this was the first one I played and it got me. I was supremely impressed by this. It really blew me away in almost every way possible.
I always wonder if I would like these games.
Yeah, I was on the fence about it, and it really won me over. I don't know if it's for everybody. Right. I could see everybody enjoying it. This one's more like brawler. The combat's a little more brawler. Like a Dragon is more turn-based RPG, which I would give that a try if you're interested in turn-based RPG gameplay, right? Because that is just a good time to play. But yeah, if you do have interest, I would highly recommend starting with either Like a Dragon or Yakuza 0 for sure. Yeah.
I think it's all on Game Pass, so very easy entry.
I thought a few left, but you might be
right.
Yeah.
No, I think you are right.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks. I like it. I'm always intrigued about Yakuza, but have never touched a second of it. All right, my number 5. This one might be a little recency bias, but I still like it. Outer Wilds. So this game has a no.
I'm leaving. This game sucks. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I had zero problem piloting the ship. I want to point that out. Anyway, this game again has very little dialogue. There's an okay amount, but it's very important what the characters are telling you, because there are clues everywhere about what is going on. And I haven't beat it. I have only progressed so far. But the other thing that this game has everywhere is it's basically notes, but they are built in a way that kind of conveys story in a very roundabout way, where you're just kind of picking up puzzle pieces and just putting them down, and you don't know what it refers to until you get like 2 other puzzle pieces that happen to connect to it. And I think that all is in service of the dialogue, of the writing. And once you start getting huge chunks of this puzzle completed, it starts making sense, and it starts like really taking shape. And I think that you just like learn more through dialogue than any other game that I've ever played. And it even recontextualizes dialogue that you've already experienced from other characters or other puzzle pieces, essentially. So just the way that it plays into the game and how it's all there, but the way that you're putting it together, kind of like in Uncharted 2, it's all given to you in whatever way you find it. And it's your job to make that dialogue and make that writing build a cohesive story. And I've never experienced that in a video game before.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like Uncharted to me.
Well, so in the way that it's just like not non-linear. That's all I mean. But this game
pretty linear.
Totally.
Sorry, I'm not trying to nitpick here, but
I only mean that it's like it's not a like here's the story A to B. Here's the story X to C to N to Z to like it's all over the place, and then you have to put it in alphabetical order essentially. And that's wild. It is the Outer Wilds, man.
Nice, dude. I was like, say it. Yep. I was hoping it would. Yeah, it's wild. It's Outer Wilds.
So cool. I think I've played like probably like 20% of that story is in my brain, and I want to know the 80% that's there, but it's a lot to. God, yeah. Horizon definitely derailed that entire train.
Yeah,
and it ain't getting back on the tracks until after Elden Ring, I think.
Are you going right into Elden Ring? You think?
Maybe.
I think you should. I will co-op with you, dude.
You are the only person dissuading me from that because you keep saying, which I think it's another game that's coming up, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's another game that you keep saying, like, you got to play this. You got to play this.
Okay.
So I'll let you know if we get to that.
Maybe it's my number 5.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, my number 5 is Hades.
Okay, no.
So we don't have to talk anymore about that. Yeah, I know. We don't have to talk anymore about it. I really wanted to chime in my little bits during you talking about it. But no, it is my number 5. I think it's a great pick. Same reasons you talked about and what I mentioned when you had said the game, because it's really good. The writing's really, really good, really witty, really funny.
I don't think I understood how much until we're, doing this little exercise together, how much like that really propelled me and made me want to play this whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, my number 5 was Hades.
Very good. Cool. All right. We can move on to my number 4 then, which is Mass Effect 2. You knew a Mass Effect had to be on here.
I knew it.
Dude, this game is all about talking. All the Mass Effect games are all about talking, and the more that I know Mass Effect 1 has a lot of problems, and it's really turned you off as far as like the gameplay and all that kind of stuff. The story is important there. Mass Effect 2 is where it really shines, and everything makes sense and feels like this is a story worth telling. And this is definitely an instance where I care about the characters, and the game doesn't make you, but you want to explore the characters and talk to them every time you're on board the Normandy and find out everything you can. And then it makes that necessary if you want to do a good job at the end and you want to be able to save as many people as possible for your suicide mission. So I just think that I think I like writing when it pertains to gameplay. I think that's the important part for me, because I love stories, don't get me wrong, but I think I've read the best stories in a book or even like in a movie.
Yeah.
But when we come into situations like this, or with like with Hades, where it pertains to gameplay in a big way, that's really important to me.
Yeah.
And Mass Effect does that in a huge way by making it important for you to pay attention and understand who these characters are so that you can make the best decisions going forward.
I think that's plays into the medium. I mean, video games I think that's when, like you said, that's when it's the best, is just told through the gameplay and through the dialogue that you experience when you're going through levels with characters sometimes. And yeah, no, I agree. I think that is maybe the one thing video games can do better than other mediums, right?
It's just about capturing that.
It's just about capturing.
Seems kind of hard.
It is.
So that games have to butt up against the fact that the auteur does not have direct control, and the game player is the one that is kind of in control in most of the time. I am jumping on rocks. I am shooting arrows all the time when, people are like talking to me in Horizon. When you get into the conversation, there's nothing else you can do, but still, like there's so much kind of world breaking that you can do as a player.
For sure. Yeah. And plus in Mass Effect 2, don't you get to hit a reporter?
You get to hit a reporter in every game if you play your cards right.
Man, come on. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. You should have just said Legendary Edition and called it a day.
There we go.
Yeah. So moving on to my number 4. My number 4 is Red Dead Redemption. I just think it gave a genuine 1800s feel to every character. Each person feels like they know that they have the confidence that they have what it takes to survive on the frontier. They're complex, conflicted characters, some struggling to hold on to a way of life that they know deep down is already gone.
Yeah.
And I think it's
the whole, that's like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a way of life that's gone, but
they don't know it. They're still fighting tooth and nail, right? Yep. To hold on to it. Yeah. And I think
the good old days.
Yeah. And it's told extremely well. The characters involved are just so cool and so well written. You have those types of characters. You have others just trying to transition from a life of crime to living clean. You have swindlers, ranchers, the constant encroachment of society, moving in. It paints a picture of struggle for everybody in one way or another. And it's told in every interaction that you have. And it all culminates in one of the most effective endings I've ever experienced as a gamer. This was that jaw-dropping, like, can't believe it, what just happened moment for this game.
No Country for Old Men, right?
Well, I feel like that was almost... Well, are we talking about the book or the movie?
The movie.
Okay, so the movie I felt like was cheap.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, like, are we going to spoil No Country for Old Men here?
Yeah, that movie's old as crap.
So, like, you find Llewellyn in a hotel room dead, right?
Uh-huh.
You don't find out what happened. That's it. You play, like, the camera is the sheriff rolling up to find him dead in a hotel room. The whole movie is about him evading the people trying to kill him, right?
Yeah.
He gets killed. You don't even get to see it.
Yeah,
I get it. Like, very Coen Brothers, right? Like,
your main character.
I think the impact of the ending came after that, right? And the conversation that came after that. But anyway, but I get what you're saying. I think it's a great movie. I felt like that was a little cheap. Like, I want to see that. I want to see that happen. But, like, geez, now you're going to get me talking about this movie. The ending, but the dialogue that happens between the two characters after that occurs, I think, is just a very, very solid ending for that film. Anyway,
Red Dead Redemption. It's been a long time, but yes. All I was saying is, like, main character dies, basically.
Right. Well, spoiler alert.
Yeah, they're both old, but
it's effective here. Like, right. I've said it before on the podcast. I turned my system off and turned it back on to get it back into the save where I thought I could escape that.
Right.
I genuinely thought I could escape it. Something like that doesn't happen in video games, right? Like the main character doesn't die in a hail of bullets. Like, that's not possible. And then that instant cut to his family escaping on horseback, it was just like, oh, dude, powerful stuff, man. And that's the thing, like, that is huge. That is big. And that was a major twist. But everything that came before that, it starts out when you're talking to, like, Bonnie, I think her name is, the rancher, and the dialogue. She's such a cool character, like, strong female. She doesn't need anybody. It's her ranch. She knows what she's doing. Like, she could take care of herself, and, like, you run into characters like that throughout the entire game. There's also, like, that mysterious stranger who you run into throughout the game, who always alludes to the fact that like you're going to die. And you're like, how does he know this? Like, who is this mysterious man? Is he the devil? Like, we don't know. The people you're hunting down that you used to be crew with, there's emotion behind those conversations. There's a history there, and it's all told through the dialogue, not flashbacks, right? This is awesome game, awesome writing. If you're going to credit Rockstar for GTA 5, I wholeheartedly think they need to be credited for this game.
Totally. Yeah. This is a rare instance where I definitely enjoyed the writing and stuff like that. And I played through most of Red Dead 1, and I watched a decent amount of Red Dead 2. But that gameplay is just no bueno for me. I can't suffer it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, a rare instance where I like the story and world building way more than the gameplay.
I will say, when this game came out, it wasn't a hindrance for me. I don't think it was as set in stone what buttons should do what, the era that Red Dead Redemption came out. But when I picked up Red Dead 2 a few years ago, I couldn't progress in the story. So it's not hard on my list because I couldn't make it through, because I'm like, no, like the buttons are wrong. And I could probably have remapped it. I'm sure it wouldn't have been I'm sure that's something
I think there are too many things happening where it like the game needs that many inputs in a very specific way.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me.
No, I get it. I do understand that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a shame, but yeah. Good pick. Great pick. I can totally stand behind that one. All right, my number 3. This was between two games, and I ultimately went with this one, and it is Portal 1. Portal 2 is great. Portal 2 has some great writing, especially with Cave Johnson. Like, who can forget that? But Portal 1, I just think GLaDOS, that was such a cool, expertly written character, and the absolute driving force for you going through this video game. Mm-hmm. And I cannot get enough of it. She was so funny. Just every time you went into a new place, she had something to say. And every time that you managed to get through a puzzle, she very condescendingly congratulated you. And the end of this game with what happens, and again, her very nature is so much fun to listen to the entire game. Just brilliant writing. I think 2 definitely took things in a different direction, which was a lot of fun. But this one had way more of an impact when I breezed through it.
I think it's a very good pick.
Thank you.
I think it belongs on the list.
Okay.
Yeah. It'd be hard pressed. I don't want to say the line. I'm fighting every bone in my body that is like, say the line.
Yeah. Don't say it.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not
this
going
is not 2007.
And I am not basic. All right. I proved that,
Perfect.
Yeah.
This game is more than that.
It. Yes, it is so much more. I'm sorry. Anyway, quick. I'll move on to my number 3. Okay. So my number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ooh. Played a whopping 4 hours of this game, and I really liked it.
Bro.
But again, things came up.
Shame.
I know.
This endearing characters, insane cameos, just wonderful side characters that pop in out of nowhere and have like the craziest interactions, hilarious banter and dialogue. All of this ridiculousness never undercuts the emotion of the story and the impact of the trauma that each of these characters has experienced. I'm all about trauma this episode, dude, but I think it's powerful, man.
It is.
And the fact that you could have such high highs when it comes to comedy and such like deep, like emotional lows for some of these characters, and it never feels like a blatant juxtaposition. It always fits together so well. And it never feels like they're opposed to each other. They work together. That's awesome, man. That is incredible storytelling. And each character gets like an opportunity to overcome their past trauma and work through it. And like, oh, it's powerful stuff. And it's powerful stuff in a game about Guardians of the Galaxy that is like the most ridiculous space adventure ever. It's literally like you have a talking Russian dog running a space station in a celestial's head. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, the movies did the same thing. They had phenomenal writing to them.
And I am not taking anything away from them. Yeah. But the fact that like this game came after those movies and was still effective, I think only speaks more to the strength of it. Sure. Like people didn't want more of just the movie. And this wasn't that. Like, yeah, it had that emotional, those like the emotional depth of the movies, and it had the comedic like lightness of the movies, but it was more than those. It was more than those. It was a new, fresh story. It wasn't a rehash. It wasn't the same characters that we had in the movies. Like, yeah, some of them were the same characters, like by name and who they are. But I mean, we got to see other sides of those characters in this game that we hadn't seen in the movies. And I mean, obviously the comic book before either of those did a pretty good job with them. But yeah, it's so well written. And like, it was one of my favorite experiences from last year. I do want to go back and play more because the more I think about this game, the more I like it. I think sometimes when you're playing through a game, you do understand the what they're trying to accomplish, but sometimes you're playing through it and you're just like, you're going through it, right? You're taking in what you can, but you're not really like getting everything. And I feel like there is probably a lot I didn't see in this game that I could go back and experience it again and see even more and appreciate it even more.
Right.
But the writing is really top notch. And I think it definitely needs to be highlighted. More people should play this game if they haven't. It's on Game Pass now. It's on Game Pass now.
Right. So, no excuse.
Yeah. You have Game Pass.
I want to ask you a very broad meta question.
Uh-oh.
So, okay, we have a couple different distinct types of media, right? We have books, we have video games, movies, TV shows, comic books. What is the goal of all of this media? Is everything trying to emulate like cinema? Is that the greatest form of storytelling, or are things going towards like video games where you can have cinema but then interactivity? Like what is the goal?
Well, I think the goal for anything, for books, for cinema, it's all to incite emotion. Right? It's to make you either think or to make you feel. Okay. Right? Like that is what the goal is of anything.
So there's no like
music,
right way
books,
to do it.
Cinema. Oh, if you're asking me that question, if you're asking me like which, I think the right way to do it is games to an extent. Like personally, of course, I'm a gamer. I'm going to say that, but like you've said it before, interactive media, there's a different feel to it.
Right.
There are powerful moments where a character is doing something because they are that character and your control is limited. Right. And it has a greater effect on you because you can't control those things. But then there are other types of games where you can control everything the character does and still see where the story takes you. I think it's powerful. It has the capability of being more effective than any other medium, I think.
So I guess that brings me to a second question. What type of media or what specific book, movie, TV show, whatever, has elicited the greatest emotional response in you? you don't have to say which one, but could you
Not
say
a
like
specific game, just which type of media, right?
right? Do you think it has been a video game that's done it the best, or was it a movie? It got me thinking when you're talking about like, yeah,
Right.
the comic books, like, okay, everything that you're talking about has been drawn from the base material of the comic book.
Mhm.
Did the comic book do the best job of giving you an idea of who these characters are?
No. I feel like it's also the most limited of those three mediums.
Sure,
right?
sure. And that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Books kind of like make you imagine everything. Comic books give you something to look at, but then like a movie, like you are hearing and seeing it. So like it's just weird how all these things kind of exist, but we derive different pleasures from them.
I think it's a tie between. I do think if I had to choose one, it would be video games, but I do think cinema has been just as effective as video games. And it's mostly because those emotional parts of video games I'm watching as though it were a movie.
Exactly.
But I think both have made me feel like incredibly, just incredible emotions.
Right.
Like, yeah.
See,
I don't want to get into it. Like,
I think I would say
I have felt things that like there are instances in life that make you feel very strong emotions, and
then there's your
I think
like,
that's the real answer. Yeah,
exactly.
But it'd be cinema or games for me. Yeah.
I would lean towards cinema just because it is so controlled. Like the director can like, this is the feeling you're gonna feel,
right,
and
really
I'm using everything at my disposal to elicit this very particular response. I feel like that's why things like Avengers Endgame, like that movie was.
Don't spoil it.
No, I'm not going to.
All right.
That movie like was poured over probably like thousands of people to like pick the different parts of your brain in a very specific way so that you are like enjoying it at the right levels. And it's like so crazy to think about.
No, I agree. Like you said, there's a part of games that you can break, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying, but I think I've felt just as much playing games as I have watching movies. But I do think for me, it's those two.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry to derail.
No, good question, man. Really good question.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number 2, is that where we're at?
That's where we're at.
Okay. So my number 2 is a game called BioShock. And I think this is an example of a game where you are playing, and I feel like I'm gonna do some light spoilers on BioShock. So if you don't want to hear anything,
like, if you're debating it, the only thing I want to say is, would you kindly talk about some spoilers having to do with BioShock?
Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
By my own free will, I will do.
Of course, by your own free will, Brian. Of course it is.
So for BioShock, this is a video game where you are playing it and you think you are playing it by your own free will and admission, and you think you are doing things that you should be doing because you are wanting to do them, but the game at a certain point recontextualizes everything that you've done as not free will in any way, shape, or form, and you are just following directions. And I think that is nuts.
Yeah.
And it is all delivered to you through dialogue and writing, and as Ryan alluded, through very specific words. So that was just a crazy thing that happened. I think we all had that exact feeling when the moments hit us, and it was a wild ride for BioShock for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's one I debated putting on my list last week, actually. Because I think having that reveal for the first time again would be very effective.
Right.
It's one I also debated putting on my list this week, but I played BioShock at a time in my life where I wasn't like the most sober person. So I feel like the effect was a little foggy for me.
Oh no.
Like it was still there,
Sure.
But it probably didn't like hit the way it was meant to.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That would be like, can I replay this game for the first time with a different mind, with a different mental acuity.
Right, for sure, dude. But like, I definitely think it's worthy of this list.
So I want to that point. I will just say that Captain Toad Treasure Tracker hits a little different depending on where you're at,
what your
mentally.
mental state is.
Because that game just starts. You just turn it on and you're playing
it's
it, man.
like, and it's like this cool little intricate world. You could just like move around. It's really like visually very cool.
That's it.
Yeah. Anyway, so number 2, my number 2 is The Last of Us Part 2.
Very good.
Yeah. Haters be damned. This game just makes me feel all the emotion. I feel anger. I feel like I want to kill when I play this game. I feel like I want to forgive when I play this game. I feel like I want to cry when I play this game. Life is messy. Things rarely end up the way we want them to or the way we think they will. And in this story, like, human emotion is the linchpin to everything occurring throughout this game. And they convey that so well. Through dialogue and through choices and through the characters and what they're doing and how they interact with each other. How people process trauma or deal with loss, it takes center stage here. And it shows how incredibly flawed human beings are when it comes to processing those sorts of things. Yeah, they're incredible characters across the board. Almost all of them are deeper than we initially think. We kind of meet everybody at the beginning, and you immediately have feelings towards certain characters, whether they be positive or negative. And as the game progresses, you learn more and more about them. And, maybe what you learn changes your feelings towards them. Maybe it doesn't, but you do realize that they are people. They are real people living their lives the way that they think is the best way to live them. No matter how like trivial one of the characters may be, that's how it comes across. And that is how I think it's so effective at creating real people. And that is just something that you don't really get a lot in video games. People don't feel grounded. Video games are rarely grounded. This game is so grounded. It has a difficulty setting named Grounded. But yeah, I just think the characters and their individual struggles and their lack of resources to deal with the things they've been through just sticks with me to this day.
Yeah.
I still think about this game often, and I've already played through it twice, and I guarantee you I will play through it again.
Now, I don't want to spoil the rest of your list, but was there a debate between this and part 1 for you?
You're not going to spoil the rest of my list. Yeah, okay. There was a debate between this and part 1. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
So what was it that pushed this one over the edge?
It's better written. Part 1. It's better written. I think as a whole, with the other characters, the secondary characters,
right?
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but all the characters involved in the story, I think you just come to find out more about people you didn't know and people you did know, and it just does everything that first game did so much better than the first one did. I do think the dialogue was great in the first one, but you were dealing with fewer characters. Mm-hmm. And it
felt way more simple.
Limited. It was limited. Yeah, a little more limited, sure, right? Like, sure. I think that's the best way to put it. It's just the scope of the story was not the scope of this story. And even the
black and white.
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to put it.
Right. Not everything, but a lot of things were black and white.
And yeah, like I said, this is messy. Like, these characters are messy. Nobody knows what to do, and we don't know what to do. People don't freaking know what to do. It's like if something terrible happens to you, you have no clue what to do.
Right.
Like how to react, how to feel, what to do with those feelings. And yeah, but when you're playing this, when you're seeing these people do whatever they choose to do, however they choose to handle it, you feel like, yeah, I get it. I get it.
I mean, that's the thing, again, going back to zombie apocalypses, which is, I would say, falls into.
That is so secondary in this game to me. Like, that is so second. Like, I don't even think about that when I talk about this game.
Right. Yeah. But that's the thing is, in those stories, society's rules, which is what governs most all of us and our decisions, that is out the window. And we see these characters. This is my number one. So we can go ahead and kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
Society's rules go out the window, and it's hard for us as people living in the society to understand, but the game's writing makes it so that we can understand, and makes it so that we can say, like, I mean, yeah, I would probably do the same thing, or like, well, that sucks for that character. And for me, the difference between part 1 and part 2, and why part 2 has the better writing and is more impactful in that way, is because of the way it makes you care about characters and changes your mind about characters. And that was just a moment in that game where it slowly happens. It happens as the game progresses, as you're finding out more about certain characters.
I'm really trying to tiptoe. Yeah, no, you should. I think we should.
Totally.
Yeah. If you want to hear how we feel about the entire game, I think our second episode is on this game specifically.
Exactly.
So we share a whole lot of spoilers there and get into the reads. But
right.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
But even like now we did that episode like after playing the game, like weeks after, not long at all. And now I've had way more time to reflect, and it still is impactful. And yeah, you really understand characters in a different light, and that goes to the strength of the writing. So
I just think too, it's those moments where you're just exploring the environments and you have two characters talking to each other and building their relationship, Dina and Ellie. And like some of the dialogue there when they go to like the synagogue and stuff, there's just so much like depth to what they're discussing. And there's so much told in the environment of what happened before. You find notes everywhere. You find remnants of like failed escape attempts and things like that. And it just, even those little things have huge impact to you playing it.
Sure.
Yeah, gosh, I'm really happy to hear this is your number one. I think it should not be understated. Like this is special. It does stuff that video games don't do.
Yeah. I would say this is where we get the writing that is on caliber with a movie or a book.
I would agree with you. I think this is the instance where it occurs. Definitely.
Well, that's it for my number one.
Great pick for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to guess your number one.
I bet you can guess it. Can guess it.
Yeah. Are we going to the disco?
We're going to the disco, baby.
Okay.
I have to concur with our guest last week, Rick, from Pixel Project Radio. I 100% have to concur with him. My number one is Disco Elysium.
This is the game that might. Yeah, this is the one you want me to maybe play. This or Elden Ring.
Well, I thought it was Guardians actually, because I wasn't really thinking. But as soon as we got to like a few seconds beyond that conversation, I was like, oh, I bet it's my number one. And I think you should. I think you should play it. It's a shorter game than Elden Ring. If you get into Elden Ring, you'll be playing it for months. So if you feel as though you want to play Disco Elysium, really put that first. I mean, definitely realistically,
the next game I'm going to play is going to be Returnal. Just FYI.
Yeah, I know. A few days here, we're dealing with that DLC, right? I cannot wait. I'm going to play Mario Kart as well because they're getting those new tracks.
Oh yeah. 2 days.
Yeah, I know. Sweet. It's like we are living in a golden age.
We are
video games. Yeah. Like I said, we talked about it last week. This was never a doubt in my mind. You talk about the sheer volume when it comes to Hades. You could say the same thing here. There is an incredible volume of writing involved in this game, not just dialogue, but also text scroll. The inner monologues the main character, I won't say the name, the protagonist has with himself. It is the most poetic, bizarre, fever dream stuff that like any human being could ever put on paper. And it's so entertaining to hear, to read, to listen to. It's just like, unparalleled. It really is, man. So much of this game actually sounds like poetry as you're listening to it. And it's a human fighting with himself, fighting his nature and figuring out what his nature is. And it's so good. You get to figure all that out, actually. You get to figure out everything in this game, where you put your skill points, what kind of character you want to be. There's so much freedom, and that freedom also affects how other people talk to you and how you interact with the world and that writing. But there's just a lot there. So you always get these little variants depending on what your choices are. And it's that depth, it's that volume of writing. But yeah, I just think you're in an area as well that has a very rich history, and all that is incredibly conveyed through storytelling. You have a bookstore that has books you can read, and each book is entertaining and will also affect your stats in some way, most likely. You have one of the coolest sidekicks that has ever been put in a video game. I just think it's unparalleled. In me explaining it, I feel like I lack the words to do it justice. It's poetic, humorous, engaging, and depressing, and it's perfect. That's about the way I would sum it up. Gosh, man. Poignant. like go play this game. You really have to. It's something that has to be experienced. You could, if the one thing blocking you is the fact that you might have to play it like a point and click, don't let that stop you. Never let that stop you from experiencing this game. I'll do a second playthrough with you. Like, we could sync up and play through it. Absolutely I would. Yeah.
I will. This seems like a game. Also, I have to play Demon Souls. Like, what am I going to do, Ryan? This is crazy.
I think you are going to play Disco Elysium. I would almost recommend Demon Souls before Elden Ring.
Oh, man. Like, what? Elden Ring, I'm so excited about. It sold 12 million copies.
I know, it's incredible. It's good, too. Good for FromSoft, man. They deserve it. They've always made good games. It's good people are recognizing that.
Right. Too many games. Unbelievable.
It's the truth, man. There are too many games.
Well, that's the list.
That's it.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and get into a...
Yeah, let's do the mission debrief here, and we'll take it away. All right, Ryan.
All right.
My mission debrief is as follows. I played Tunic a little bit.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Okay. I have two things. I have two mission debriefs because I didn't play. I played like 20 minutes of Tunic, but it seems cool. Seems like a little bit of Death's Door. Seems like a little
cool,
bit of
man.
Zelda.
Yeah.
Art style, I like way more than Death's Door. So that automatically is like elevating it. And it's very mysterious and doesn't communicate anything to you, which it sounds like Elden Ring is like, that's kind of one of the main things. So I'm digging that. Everything that you read is in a completely hieroglyphic language that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So yeah,
cryptic.
There's a whole language. Very cryptic. So I'm enjoying that, the little I've played. But my other mission debrief, the one that I had prepared more so, is I guess it's a streamer, and the streamer goes by the name of Grassloo00. Okay.
Okay.
This person, this is a little off the wall, but this person does playthroughs of GoldenEye 007
Cool.
the N64 and GoldenEye 007. I guess there was a XBLA version that was going to come out that has not come out, but there was still stuff done. And what they do is they play through the game, but on each level, the missions are as they stand, but there have been additional restrictions put in play. So take the frigate level, for instance. You have to rescue hostages. You have to put the tracker bug on the helicopter. There's like 5 different things you have to do. What they have done is you cannot kill any hostages. No one can die. And it seems like they are kind of pathing themselves to get in your way so that you accidentally shoot them. You have to put that tracker on the helicopter, but instead of, going up to it and throwing it, you can only go halfway on the frigate and then you have to lob it,
like try to hit
hope that you hit it.
It's pretty funny.
And land it on there.
Pretty funny.
There's just like all these other things that are restrictions put in place on themselves to then, and they've modified the game so that, yeah, if you miss the tracker, it fails the mission. But it seems like they've just done a bunch of different levels and modded a bunch of different levels to have all these different, like, more enemies are in play. Bunch of cool stuff like that. And it was so fun to just watch and hear that music and hear those sound effects, right. But like in a completely different way.
Surprised to hear a streamer from you. That's interesting.
So the way I happened upon this streamer, and I haven't watched too many things, but I found it on Twitter, of course. That's where I live. Their Twitter icon was the most hideous Joanna Dark, and I realized it's the Game Boy Color version of Perfect Dark that it comes from. And they did a playthrough of Perfect Dark Game Boy Color, and I watched the entire thing. It was like an hour and a half, 2 hour playthrough. Wow. And I was like, yep, I remember this game. I remember this level, this, that, and the other. And then I just like went down that rabbit hole. So
I hear you. That's cool.
Isn't it cool? Yeah, it's weird for me, but yeah, Graslu. So GRASLU00.
Okay. There you go. There you go. Get them on Twitch.
That's right.
So if you also live on Twitter, we have a Twitter that you should follow us. It's listoff_podcast on Twitter. We're also on Instagram at listoff podcast. We are also on podcast apps.
Instagram.
I said Instagram.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. We're also on Facebook too, which is kind of cool. And then we also have merch. I mean, I don't know if it's cool, but like we're there.
We are there.
Yeah. And we also have merch. All the links, as always, will be down in the show notes. Rate and review us, because that's something we never ask for. But I feel like it's something podcasters ask for.
It is.
So I feel like I should do my part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's impactful, but I don't know the exact metrics to that.
I don't know. Will it help? Who knows? But it'd be cool if you did it. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes.
And then on to my mission debrief. Boy, I had a few I wanted to do as well.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm still up in the air about two of them. You got to say two. Why can't I say two?
So, but my first one was a very quick one.
Wow. Okay. So I'll do two. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna stick with it. I don't want to we can't just go off and do whatever we want. We don't want to do whatever we want here, Brian. There has to be structure. One of us has to be structure, and of course it would be me. So I'm going to talk about trivia, like real life trivia.
Trivia is awesome.
Yeah. So if you feel comfortable going out in public again, go out. Be in public, do fun things. My wife and I got somebody
follow whatever guidelines.
Right, of course. Like obviously. Yeah, obviously. Like
the pandemic is not over. I think yeah.
Right. I think
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the classification. I don't know what the classification of it is. I guess it's still a pandemic.
I mean, the CDC just says whatever they want now. So anyway.
Who knows what's happening, but I felt comfortable going out.
Yes, totally.
And my wife and I rarely get to, so we actually got a babysitter, and the last few Mondays we were able to go out and meet some people that she knows through her work and do trivia nights.
Nice.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. I used to do trivia all the time where we used to live, where you live. And man, I always had such a good time. And, obviously half the fun is the trivia, but a lot of fun is just being out and socializing with people.
Man, you and I would kick butt at trivia.
100%. Yeah, no, I'd kick butt. I'd totally kick butt, actually.
Right.
So my wife's a teacher, right? So a lot of the people that we went out with were teachers. And apparently in academic teams, there's somebody called the trash person, right? Because they're the person who is good at like the pop culture references or the sports or that sort of thing. And I was deemed the trash person.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm the trash king. But dude, I'll be damned. Like they pegged me wrong because I nail questions, buddy. And we actually won the first time we went out and played. We won trivia night, and they play for money at this place by us.
Jeez.
Where it slowly builds. So at the end, the winning team has one person go up and represent them. They're asked 10 questions. If they get them all right, right within 3 minutes, they then get the pot of money. The first time we won the pot of money was $500 something.
Whoa.
Yeah. The second time we went, it was $900 something.
Jeez.
Right. And as the pot goes up, the last round of questioning for the winning team gets easier. Well, we haven't been. Hopefully, it's still there. But we got second place the second time we went, I should say. So we didn't get first, but it was still just so much fun, man. And
that's awesome.
It's not just to talk about me going to trivia. This is genuinely like if our listeners have not ever gone out to a trivia night, I don't know if that's your sort of thing. Maybe you're still at an age where you go out and party, but I am no longer at that age. So for me to go out and do something like this, it's a lot of fun, man. It's a fun night out and it's not too crazy or hectic. It's fun enough and, low key enough that you can do it on a Monday night and not feel wrecked the next day.
Dude, I was on academic team in high school.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was probably more towards the trash tier of person on there.
Yeah.
But I mean,
check out the big brain on Brian.
Yeah. We were Seabreeze High academic team.
I like it.
So Seabreeze High, SHAT, and that was our chant.
That's great. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. That's very good. I think that's a good note to end on.
Yes.
Do we have an episode next week, Brian?
We do. Next week, we are talking about the top 10 worst things we have done in a game.
It's actually not going to be top 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right, because we're going to have some guests.
We are.
So does that drop it down to 3?
It will be top 3 plus an honorable mention. Yeah.
Okay. 3 plus 1.
Because I think we went a little long doing 5.
Yeah.
But totally. I'm saying that, but here we are at like the 2-hour mark. So
I know.
What do I know?
We're getting meatier and meatier here.
I just like talking to you, dude.
Yeah. Likewise.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is with All Day I Play Radio. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a good time for sure.
Yeah. We hope that you enjoyed listening to us and watching us. And with that, we bid you adieu, and we will see you next week. See ya.
Bye.